Hi, I'm Oscarito, and this is the movie The Gorge. Two elite snipers have been guarding a mysterious gorge from opposite sides for a whole year. Forced by circumstances to descend, they encounter victims of horrific experiments that threaten humanity's extinction. The movie begins with a Lithuanian sniper buried in a trench like a hobbit in a burrow, waking up and preparing for her mission. She sticks her rifle barrel out, takes a shot, and after confirming the target is down, retrieves the empty shell casing. The story then shifts to former Marine and sniper Levi. Tormented by nightmares and suffering from insomnia, he spends his nights racing through the city. Later, he sits by the sea until dawn, writing something in his notebook, like a man whose name starts with H. Hemingway. This continues until he receives an order on his phone to report to a military base. There, Levi meets a mysterious woman named Bartholomew. Judging by her lack of insignia, she is an outsider in this operation. She questions him about his work as a contract killer. After a psychiatrist removed him from service, claiming he had lost all sense of purpose, Bartholomew offers him a new contract. Meanwhile, Draxa returns home to visit her mother's grave and her ailing father. She tells him about her last mission and hands over a keepsake shell casing. Her father keeps evidence of his daughter's killings in a special bag. Draxa confesses that she was caught on camera by her superiors during a special assignment. The problem is that her father is terminally ill. Within this time, he will either die or take his own life to avoid suffering. In September, Levi wakes up from anesthesia aboard a helicopter. The female pilot confirms his identity, collects his personal belongings, and instructs him to disembark and travel 38 kilometers on foot to the designated location. Strapping on a parachute, the Marine obediently follows orders, jumps, and upon landing, treks through the picturesque landscape until he reaches a long gorge, its depth shrouded in thick fog. There, he meets his colleague, JD, whom Levi is set to replace. JD briefs him on the situation. Autonomous observation posts with generators and solar panels are stationed on both the western and eastern sides of the gorge, controlled by Western and Eastern European countries. Each post is manned by a single operative, and communication between observers is strictly prohibited. Nearby, there is a small garden, and the forest is rich in game. The observer's primary task is to patrol the perimeter daily, ensuring its integrity, checking the automatic machine gun turrets, replacing suspended mines, and repairing the fence in case of a breach from the gorge. Once a month, a communication check is conducted through the only available channel. Antennas along the perimeter transmit fake signals to satellites, making the gorge invisible from above. JD also warns that if the security system fails or the perimeter is breached from below, the air shield system and protocol Stray Dog will be activated. In that case, the only option is to run as far away from the post as possible. The vast majority of the equipment here dates back to the 1940s. After World War II, the West and the USSR made a secret agreement, one so classified that even presidents are unaware of it. Its purpose to guard the exit of the gorge against the so-called hollow men. No one truly knows what they are. However, when 3 cavalry battalions were sent into the gorge for a post-war cleansing operation, none returned. JD believes that below lies a gateway to hell itself. The next morning, after seeing JD off, Levi slowly starts settling in. He has no idea that his predecessor, upon reaching the evacuation point, takes a bullet to the forehead instead of getting his well-earned rest and payment. Bartholomew reports this incident. October arrives. For the entire month, Levi diligently performs his daily routine, passing the time by flipping through books from the sparse library. Behind a bookshelf, he notices quotes carved into the wall, left behind by past observers. One day, curiosity gets the better of him, and he looks through his binoculars toward the other side of the gorge. There he spots a captivating young woman, Draxa. Sensing with her intuition that someone is watching, she turns around, but without optics, she can't see what's happening across the gorge. That night, during a thunderstorm, Levi suffers a PTSD episode. He jolts awake, knocking over a glass of water and accidentally cutting his leg. While tending to his wound, he notices a light glowing in the opposite tower. His colleague is also awake. November arrives. Celebrating her birthday, Draxa overindulges in cake and champagne, which makes her crave some interaction with Levi. From across the gorge, she grabs his attention with a gunshot into the air, then holds up a question written on a piece of paper. Levi reads it through his binoculars and replies that contact is forbidden, but he gives in to the provocation and offers to drink some potato moonshine to her health. The festive interaction continues. Draxa wants to dance, play some music, and then challenges Levi's sniper skills by shooting his cup with perfect precision. In response, Levi takes a shot at a bottle. Draxa raises the stakes, placing a second bottle on her head. But suddenly she notices the automatic floodlights under Levi's tower activate, scanning for targets. Through his scope, Levi spots creatures, ugly ones. He immediately opens fire, triggering a suspended mine that sends some of them tumbling down. Draxa activates the heavy machine gun on her tower to help her comrade mow down the monsters. Just as they finish off the creatures, another one climbs onto Draxa's balcony. She starts shooting at it, and now Levi has to provide suppressing fire from his machine gun. During the chaos, some of the hanging mines detonate, sending shrapnel into her shoulder. Then the automated turrets activate and the creature's assault from the gorge collapses. While Draxa treats her wound, Levi covers her with his rifle. She thanks him, noting that this was the best birthday she's ever had. During the day, as Levi clears the aftermath of the night attack, Draxa provides cover. Suddenly, they both spot a drone emerging from the fog below. It hovers for a moment, then swiftly speeds away on its mysterious mission. In December, Levi decorates a tree near his tower with spare light bulbs, wishing his colleague a Merry Christmas. They continue to bond throughout the month, playing chess and building snowmen in each other's honor. Time passes until February 14th. That day, Draxa feels down, realizing that her father is dying at home. She writes to Levi, saying she wishes he were there with her. This request stimulates the Marine's hypothalamus, triggering a surge of creativity. Levi grabs a grenade launcher shell, unscrews its warhead, and unspools a coil of rope in the yard. He secures one end on his side and attaches the other to the shell, which he then fires toward the eastern tower. Draxa, surprised by such an ingenious stunt, puts out the small fire caused by the shell and secures the now taut rope over the gorge. Levi, after writing a dinner invitation, prepares for the date. He shaves and gathers a modest bouquet of wildflowers. Then he clips a carabiner to the rope, builds up speed, and slides across the abyss. However, misjudging the inertia, he ends up dangling in the middle of the gorge. With no other choice, he pulls himself along the rope, something he's grown used to after months of solitude. Soon, the two colleagues finally meet face to face. Draxa has prepared a rabbit pie, but first, she insists that her guests take a shower and change into clothes left behind by past sentries. Then they share dinner, discussing their fathers, their jobs, and their pasts. The evening ends with dancing, which gradually transitions into the bedroom. Later, Levi confesses that he writes poetry and has even written one for her, but adamantly refuses to read it aloud. In the morning, he prepares to return to his side in time for his monthly communication session. However, during transport, they realize they've missed another attack. Monsters are already climbing the tower walls. One of them triggers a mine and the explosion severs the rope. Levi plunges into the fog, barely managing to deploy his parachute. Without hesitation, Draxa grabs her own parachute and leaps after him. As she plunges through the dense yellow mist, she crashes into a raging river, losing her Jumar, the gear needed for climbing vertical ropes. Levi regains consciousness, hanging upside down from a tree, his parachute tangled in the branches. At that moment, a mutant caterpillar attacks him and he barely manages to shoot it off. Breaking free, he falls down into a sticky sludge which holds him like glue. But the worst part, this substance is part of a ravenous predator, its jaws slowly closing in. The monster is about to devour Levi when Draxa suddenly appears. With a precise shot, she blasts the creature's teeth away, helping Levi escape the trap. They trudge through a fog-covered, eerie forest toward the eastern wall of the gorge, hoping to climb up using the rope. However, along the way, they are attacked by saber-wielding horsemen. Luckily, bullets work just fine against the mutated riders. As she reloads, Draxa realizes that she lost her ascender, meaning they won't be able to climb the 500-meter vertical wall. They'll have to find a natural way out. Upon examining their attackers, Levi realizes these are soldiers from the missing battalions. That means they've been trapped here for nearly 80 years. The duo continues through a ghastly forest, as if sculpted from tortured skeletons. Eventually, they stumble upon an abandoned military base. On a flagpole, faded flags of Britain, the USSR, and the USA flutter weakly in the wind. Inside a church, they find dead bodies slumped over pews. Traces of cyanide suggest mass suicide. As they explore the building, skull-bodied spiders attack, soon followed by hollow men who join the fray. Realizing that defense is futile, the observers detonate a grenade against a wall and escape through the newly formed gap before things turn into a different kind of hole for them. To get off the open ground, they sprint toward the gorge's wall, where they find a bunker door. Inside, they discover an overgrown research facility, choked with fungi and layers of dust. Judging by photographs from the Yalta conference, the base dates back to the 1940s. Levi finds a reel of film while Draxa locates a propane-powered generator. The duo fires it up. The poorly secured projector starts playing the film reel. In the footage, scientists explain that in 1946, after the invention of the atomic bomb, the West and the East built a secret facility to develop biochemical weapons of similar power. However, when an earthquake occurred, the samples leaked into the atmosphere, infecting everyone present. All those who lived in the gorge merged their DNA with plants and have now become carriers of a biological contagion. However, contact with the toxic spores is not immediately fatal. If one escapes within a few hours, it is possible to avoid irreversible genetic damage. Levi finds more modern equipment from the 2000s belonging to the private company Dark Lake. He realizes that biomaterial is being studied using drones, one of which they had already seen. He also learns the meaning of Protocol Stray Dog. If security is compromised, a nuclear bomb will be triggered, wiping out everything within a 4-kilometer radius. The pair plans to escape before they get infected. However, as they try to leave, it turns out that the mutants are not as dumb as they seem. They stole Draxa's ammo bag and left it outside as bait. When she tries to retrieve it, she gets caught in a preset lasso, and a rider drags her away. Despite her attempts to cut the rope or shoot her captor, the sniper crashes into a tree root and loses consciousness. Levi follows his partner's trail to rescue her, leading him to a missile silo, where toxic red smoke rises from below. Meanwhile, Draxa wakes up, tied up in the lair of her captor, one of the riders. But this mutant is not bronze, he's more like solid oak. She lands a kick, but in the end, Levi's precise shot finishes the duel, arriving just in time to save her. They escape from the shaft, where they find a missile damaged by the earthquake. It was chemical leaks from such missiles that led to the contamination of the canyon. The pair carefully moves through the mold-like sheets of human flesh, trying not to disturb them. However, Draxa accidentally steps on a piece, touching a disgusting web and getting tangled in it. Levi uses his saber to cut her free, but this triggers a hostile reaction. To escape, the girl fires a grenade into the mass of tendrils, burning the creature alive. On the surface, they find a garage filled with ancient vehicles. Levi comes up with a plan to use a jeep's winch instead of a Jumar to climb up the canyon wall. They connect the batteries and make their way toward the eastern wall. While Levi attaches the cable to the winch, Draxa holds off attacking monsters with gunfire. Then Draxa gets behind the wheel and slams the gas pedal. The jeep crawls up the sheer cliff with the power of a single horse and very slowly. However, the Hollow Men aren't giving up. They scramble up the cliff, gripping onto ropes. Jamming the gas pedal with a crate, the duo fights back, knocking them down into the abyss. During the struggle, Levi dangles over the edge but manages to puncture a gas canister. Soaked in fuel, he sets the creatures ablaze with a flare, though the jeep catches fire as well. The snipers cut the cable and climb the rest of the way on their own. Fortunately, there's not much farther to go. At the top, Levi treats Draxa's wounds and they discuss their next move. Both realize that after the mission, they will likely be eliminated. Draxa suggests running away, but Levi disagrees. It won't solve the problem. New people will be sent in and the contamination will remain. To end the threat for good, the canyon must be destroyed. Using a grappling rifle, Levi secures a line to the other side, preparing to return to his post in time for his scheduled communication. However, instead of the usual routine, he is transferred to Bartholomew. The woman asks about the situation. Levi lies, saying nothing happened, unaware that his superior already has video footage of their journey into the canyon. Bartholomew orders Levi to eliminate the Eastern Observer, but knowing he will disobey, assembles a cleanup squad. The next day, Levi and Draxa, each on opposite sides of the canyon, set up cables from antenna to antenna. During the process, they spot a helicopter approaching the tower and immediately take off running. The cleanup team, led by Bartholomew, arrives at the western outpost, but Levi is already long gone. She orders drones to be launched to track them down and personally inspects the room. Meanwhile, the snipers race through the mountains, but heavily armed drones close in on them. During the shootout, a log crashes onto Levi's leg, causing him to limp, but despite this, he manages to shoot down both drones one by one. Draxa lands a perfect shot, taking out the remaining drones, and they continue their escape. Upon reaching a designated point, the snipers take their positions, preparing for a decisive shot. At the same time, Bartholomew notices a hidden message behind a bookshelf. It's a Buddha quote. 3 things cannot be hidden for long: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Just as she reads it, the snipers fire at the explosives planted on the antennas. The charges detonate in a chain reaction, ignited by a pre-laid fuse. Levi and Draxa drop their rifles and run for their lives as the antennas explode one by one, removing the canyon's satellite invisibility. The final explosion triggers an air raid siren. Protocol Stray Dog is now active. Bartholomew and her mercenaries scramble into a helicopter, hoping to escape before the nuclear bomb, prepped for this exact scenario, detonates. A wave of fire engulfs the mutated infestation, but also catches up to Levi, slamming him into the rocks. The blast wave pushes him off the cliff and he plunges into the river, sinking slowly to the bottom. Meanwhile, Draxa, having escaped to a safe distance, watches as an inferno engulfs the canyon behind her. Later, she waits for Levi in a nearby cave, but he never comes. She crosses out his name on the envelope he gave her, a letter to be opened if he didn't return. After waiting for what feels like forever, she leaves for France, still holding on to hope that he might come back. But time passes. One evening, as the sun sets, she finally gives in and opens the farewell letter, just as Levi instructed. Inside, she finds a poem he wrote before they even met. April. Draxa works as a waitress now, trying to forget her past life as a soldier. One day, as she serves a customer, she glances at a nearby table and sees Levi, alive. He smiles and apologizes for being late. The overjoyed couple kisses against the backdrop of the ocean,